You know what's mind-blowing? There's an organization planning to restore 10,000 acres of wildlife habitat. That's like rebuilding an ecosystem the size of Manhattan from scratch.
That's quite an ambitious goal. What makes their approach different from traditional conservation efforts?
Well, it's fascinating because Wildlife Parks Unlimited is taking this completely ground-up approach. Instead of just throwing money at the problem, they're building this network of about 1,000 future conservationists who will be hands-on with the restoration work.
Hmm, that's actually pretty clever. Having that many trained people could really transform an entire region's ecosystem.
Exactly right. And here's what's really interesting. They've developed over 50 different program concepts that work together like puzzle pieces. They're mapping invasive species threats, studying water patterns, and creating these detailed restoration playbooks.
You know what this reminds me of? It's like they're treating conservation like a military operation, with all these strategic plans and coordinated efforts.
That's exactly what it's like. And get this, they're using these sophisticated digital mapping systems that layer different types of environmental data. Think Google Maps, but for tracking ecosystem health and planning restoration projects.
So they're really bringing technology into traditional conservation work. How are they making sure these restored areas stay healthy long term?
Well, that's where their watershed conservation program comes in. They're studying how water moves through these regions, like mapping out nature's plumbing system. And here's what's really cool. They're creating these sustainable trail systems so people can actually experience the restoration process without damaging it.
That's such an important balance to strike between protection and access.
Right? And they're taking it even further by developing these specialized training programs. It's not just about teaching people how to plant trees, they're teaching them to understand entire ecosystems and how everything connects.
You know, that kind of comprehensive education must be crucial for making this work sustainable.
Absolutely. And oh, this is interesting. They're also incorporating traditional ecological knowledge from local communities. Like, they understand that people who've lived in these areas for generations often have insights that might not show up in scientific studies.
That's brilliant because it helps create community buy in while also tapping into centuries of accumulated knowledge.
And speaking of community involvement, they've created these innovative monitoring systems where people can use smartphone apps to track restoration progress. It's like citizen science meets conservation.
Well, that's quite different from how conservation has traditionally been approached, isn't it?
Completely different. And here's what gives me hope. They're documenting everything they learn and creating detailed guides that other organizations can use. So, potentially, this could become a blueprint for restoring millions of acres worldwide.
That kind of scalability could have enormous impact.
You know what's really striking about all this? They're not just trying to save nature, and that's going to wrap up this episode of The Wild Rebuild. The more we dig into what Wildlife Parks Unlimited is doing, the more it feels like we're watching the blueprint for a new era of conservation take shape. They're reimagining how humans can be part of nature's recovery. It's like they're building a bridge between conservation science and community action.
That's such an important shift in thinking about environmental protection.
And I think that's really what makes this project so powerful. They're showing that effective conservation isn't just about protecting land, it's about creating this whole ecosystem of people, technology, and nature working together.
It really does sound like they're creating a new model for conservation work.
And that's going to wrap up this episode of The Wild Rebuild. The more we dig into what Wildlife Parks Unlimited is doing, the more it feels like we're watching the blueprint for a new era of conservation take shape. Thanks for spending this time with us.
We'll catch you next week.
If you want to follow the work, get involved, or just stay curious about how 10,000 acres actually gets restored from the ground up, check out Wildlife Parks Unlimited.
And until then,
keep
keep
rebuilding
rebuilding
the
the
wild.
wild.